Ta-da!
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Hugh Mulholland, and I'm going to be chairing the conversation this afternoon. So I'm delighted to be joined by Jane Butler and Duncan Ross, who are the workshop facilitators on the My Place project. Before I begin, I should say that the session is going to be recorded. So if you don't want to be seen, please keep your cameras off. I will ask you also to keep your mics off until the end of the session so that we can have you ask questions at the end. So please keep your mics off. We're also joined by Heather Martin, who's our signer today. So if you want to make use of that service, please pin Heather. Okay. So thank you very much. So as I say, I'm Hugh Mulholland, so I'm Senior Curator at the MAC, which is one of the venue partners for the Young at Art Festival. And I'm really, really pleased to be joined by Jane and Duncan. I have the last couple of weeks watched them install their exhibition on site in the MAC at the same time that we were actually installing an exhibition as well. So it's a very, very weird situation where we're all very busy installing exhibitions and people will only have the opportunity to see them virtually. So I have known Jane and Duncan for a considerable period of time, both in their capacities as art facilitators, but also as individual practicing artists. So they have a very broad exhibition profile, working across a range of different disciplines, which they bring to their practice as arts facilitators. So we thought first of all, I'd give a little bit of history as to our involvement, the MAC's involvement. As a venue partner and a hub for the Young at Art Festival, our involvement primarily, I think in the beginning really was through our theatre programming, through our live programming. And really it was only through Evelyn's determination to have the visual arts and the gallery programming more involved in Young at Art Festival. And partly because Evelyn was interested in having greater connection with young people and particularly young school kids around professional practice and around the experience of visiting galleries and seeing professional work. And for me, the challenge was, how do we interpret this professional work by artists, international artists generally? And often there were exhibitions that Evelyn didn't get the opportunity to choose what program that they were working around. And obviously Jane and Duncan also really had to respond very quickly. So the purpose really is to be able to, for us to find a way in a time when school children were retreating back into the school. Really, it was very difficult for us to get school visits. So this was a way during the Young at Art Festival to engage with schools around contemporary visual arts. So this festival always happens around this period in March. There are a number of exhibitions for us that are biannual, that come on a regular occasion and sort of crossover festival time. So the first of those exhibitions was MAC International, which is the first exhibition that Jane and Duncan responded to. And I think we have an image from that, Sinead. Yeah, so MAC International is an open competition. So generally we receive about 500 or 600 applicants globally. And there's an award of £20,000 for an individual artist, part of that. The work that Jane and Duncan responded to was a work by a young Turkish artist, and this is it. It was a representation of the skyscraper or cityscape of Istanbul. So Jane and Duncan, can you speak about what's the process? And obviously this is one of the exhibitions pre-pandemic, so we were able to fully engage with schools. Can you outline a little bit about how you come to interpret the work and what the process is?
As you mentioned there, so Duncan and myself were, this was our first year working together with the 8 schools across Belfast, so around over 200 children, and obviously an element of working with the children was working within the schools, but also as you've mentioned here, working with the MAC and taking a trip to the MAC to view the exhibition as well. That particular year, our theme for I guess the whole overall project was home, and that could have been taken by the kids in quite a broad sense. So whenever we visited the MAC International, we already had that theme in our head, and we'd done a workshop previously with the children based around what their experiences of home or what was important at home to them. And some were interpreted as kind of maybe thinking around planets or even universe, and others maybe even to the scale or comfort of the familiarity of home as well. So when we went to view, as I said, the MAC International, we had these kind of ideas in our head already, and we were drawn to this particular work. The children were drawn to this work. So it kind of like seeing a contemporary visual artist work in this context kind of helped pick apart I guess the theme even more. And one in particular thing we like to do with the school children is to kind of introduce them to more abstract and symbolic approaches to creating artworks. So it doesn't always have to be representational. So we introduce ideas around kind of line and color that maybe are a bit more abstract. So even working with the objects and the elements within the exhibition really help kind of broaden what an artwork can be for the school children.
And Duncan, so that process of kind of engaging in the schools, so there are a number of sessions that you have after the initial visits, and obviously MAC International is doing, the nature of that exhibition is artists are working in lots of different media, so you're able to really open up the possibilities of how they approach the work. Which is really refreshing, I guess, because I guess in school and primary school in particular, they probably have a very narrow idea of what an artist's practice might be. So is there a lot of curiosity in terms of the kids around what artists do?
Yeah, and perhaps that was why actually that worked really well, having the MAC International as that first kind of exhibition that we tried out this type of working with the schools, because it had such a diverse array of different mediums and different approaches. I wonder, I don't really know if the kids would have had much of a preconceived idea of what an artist was, or rather perhaps they started to conceive one during that project, and perhaps that's why it was such a kind of good show for them to come and visit, because there you can see that art can be everything. That was one of the things we like to stress in the workshops. Yeah. Art can be made of anything. Art can be anything. So that worked really well with the international, and perhaps that was these children are maybe 7, 8, 9 years old that we're working with. So perhaps that was the beginning of their idea of what an artist might be. And in that case, I think that's maybe a good thing, because it's starting off with a very broad idea of what that could be, and what kind of contribution can be made through being an artist.
So just in terms of the actual workshop activity and how they actually manifest into an exhibition, because they know their work is going to be presented in the form of an exhibition, so they go through that kind of process, don't they, really, mimicking maybe their experience of visiting the exhibition?
Yeah, well, when we the kind of workshops after the visit, we introduced kind of 2D and 3D elements within the classroom, and looked at how these elements could kind of represent experiences of home. So like we always do, we introduce them to these elements within art, so drawing and painting, and then in the further and kind of later workshops we introduce them to clay and sculpture. but always keeping it very open-ended, and this idea of that we always stress as well, that nothing is wrong. Anything you do it is correct, and it's your artwork. So it kind of leaves it very open-ended, and we like to work in that way. Nothing, as I said before, nothing needs to be representational. So I think to see work in the Mac International as well really helped to pull that out within the classroom too. So we kind of made quite abstract canvases with them, and then it developed more 3D techniques with them, with the clay as well, all kind of using these conversations we're having around contemporary art, about things from home, and just kind of putting them all together to create these lovely objects.
And I think we have an image or two of the resulting exhibition.
Yeah. It comes up. Yeah, so as I mentioned, that's more of the installation from the Mac. Will we play the home exhibition now?
All right. Are you or Sinead managing the images?
Sinead is, yeah.
Okay.
I think home 1 or home 2.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we tried. As I said, we worked with over 200 children, and we asked them to make 2 objects each, so a canvas and a sculptural object as well. So it was quite it was quite difficult to try and navigate such a small space as the common room, because it is quite a small room as well. So we had to think about how that might be presented, all these tiny kind of 400, so you have 200 canvases and 400 sculptures. So using the energy that we found through working with the children in the classrooms, we kind of wanted to take that that kind of the magical experience of being in the gallery and really use that to our advantage with their work in the gallery. So we created this imaginary landscape almost, kind of island-like that floats, and again hints at these ideas of like the universe or home, when you're not quite sure in the world where you're kind of positioned. So to try and reflect that as much, and also give attention to their work in the same way that you would with any of the artists within the Mac International, give it that attention. And I think that really came through whenever they visited. They were just shocked to see their artwork in this way,
And of course, it is showing alongside the exhibition. You turn around the whole project very quickly. So our 3-month run of an exhibition is the period in which you're working towards actually realizing your whole project. So of course, that's one of the beauties for us as well, is that this response by the kids is also seen at the same time as the exhibition.
Yes.
That's right. And so they have 2 visits. So they have the initial visit, and then they come back, and of course the Mac International is still on, but this space is opened up, and they have their presentation. So it's very much there's an idea of some sort of parity with what's happening in the rest of the building going on. I think. And also, just even in terms, just to add to what Jane was saying, we don't really go in with a preconceived idea of what we're going to do. Yeah. It very much evolves between those 2 visits, and we kind of through the remaining workshops, we do 3 altogether. We kind of work out what's going to work with what the materials the children are producing, and so it's very it's not preordained at all. It's very much a response from both us and the children to the exhibition, to the theme. To the materials that we bring into the classrooms.
And Sinead, do you have another image? Or
So
we had this large kind of circular screen. The canvases that the children worked on were all round. So obviously, when you begin, you go, okay, we could have 200 canvases in the space. But young art were great in this instance, and Emma Berkery, who was working with Young at Art at the time, was very much, you know, don't feel that you need to kind of do a thing where you just show everybody's work because you have to. You know, take what they've got and work with it and bring yourselves into it. So that's why we came. That's how we moved towards displaying the canvases like this. It changes the image in this obviously every few seconds. So
yeah,
that was a big part of the approach as well. It's not kind of us taking those materials from the children and then
yes,
doing something new with them.
I mean,
and
there
I
is.
think. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, of course, there's an element of kind of co-design because you're working with the kids and they're producing the work. But at the same time, as artists, you have to bring it together. So there's an element of your what you gain and learn from the experience of working with these groups and these children for a long period of time, so that you're able to distill that in a way and summarize it in a way which brings in some of your own thinking and ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we move on to Mark Gary?
Yeah.
So this is really just running through the 3 projects that we've done to date, and Mark Gary's exhibition was the second of the engagements with the same group of schools. And Mark Gary is an artist based in the south of Ireland, and he had an exhibition across all 3 of our galleries, which was really around the relationship between music and the earth and landscape. And one of the elements of this installation upstairs was 600 of these porcelain cast molds with this dried flower gypsona, which is baby's breath. It's commonly known as baby's breath. But you'll see in the corner of the gallery, there's a speaker, and there was a 8-hour-long soundtrack of birdsong, which was recorded, field recordings around where the artists lived. So this is what you encountered when you were working towards the next project. Could you just tell us a little bit about what your thinking was, and also how the kids responded and how you then responded with the kids?
Yeah, so this was quite a beautiful exchange, I guess. It was quite a special one, this exhibition. We again worked with the same schools, again kind of in the same format. We had an introductory workshop with the schools, kind of introducing them this idea that they were going to see an exhibition and what's an exhibition, and we pulled apart kind of these questions and ideas and kind of preparing them for the exhibition, the kind of gallery visit. That in the image, that's only one floor of the exhibition as well. It was across 3 floors within the gallery space. But again, leaving it very open, letting them encounter the work themselves in the gallery. We obviously kind of took them around and had some ideas to pull out. For instance, with these works of Mark's on the wall, we wanted to introduce this idea of colour, emotion, and the senses within this year of the project. And a lot of Mark's work within the show kind of lent itself to these kind of ideas. So, for instance, bringing back in again the idea of symbolic thinking or abstract thoughts. So when the children encountered those canvases, we asked things like, what does green sound like, or what does red smell like? And we kept that very open and abstract, which was the fun of it. And upstairs as well was a whole other event in itself, trying to keep the wee ones away from the porcelain sculptures, but they were just fascinated. We didn't actually expect to use kind of the third workshop. We introduced white clay and brought in some baby's breath and let them make their own little small versions of what Mark had produced in the gallery. And and that kind of just came again from this process of reacting to what the children kind of pulled from the exhibition themselves. They were just obsessed with the fact that this plant was called baby's breath. They just loved that. That kind of came up quite a bit. And then what we did as well, looked at the canvases and the colour, and we brought in large silks into the classroom and let them make their own abstract painting with kind of watered down paint, and thought about that in terms of like mark making and expression, how that can connect emotions, and then the colours connecting to the senses as well. So again, keeping it quite open-ended. I'm not really sure at the time what we wanted to do with the objects we were making in the classroom, but we also collaborated with Mark as well. He asked us to make a number of recordings in the classroom of the children maybe talking or singing. And in some of the Irish classes, they had some conversations around colours, and we pulled that out as well. And then that was further used throughout the Children's Festival in the upper gallery. So that was the first time actually we had collaborated with the artist at the MAC, with kind of like this triangulation of the relationship going on. But the outcome of that collaboration then was we produced a number of large silk paintings. I mean, they were meters and meters long. And we created this kind of meditative space within the common room. We created cushions, and this was kind of a direct response. Again, it's always just kind of this responsive way of working with the schools, like at the time. So we created this meditative space by producing cushions out of what the paintings on the silk the children had made, and these drapes, because we were kind of inspired by these quiet corners within the classroom that have been set up in schools to kind of that were set up for emotional awareness, I guess. And we wanted to kind of bring that back into the gallery again. So there's a part of like the schools within the gallery as well. Yeah, sorry.
I think one of the, I mean, obviously we wanted to up the ante a little bit in terms of our involvement at the MAC and our commitment to young at art, I guess, as well. And we were very much wanting to have a genuine co-design, and rather than simply have the exhibition within the common room, the space that you usually occupy, we kind of set a challenge really for you and Mark, as well as the kids, in a sense, where Mark generously agreed to allow that his 8-hour audio piece, which visitors encountered when they visited the exhibition, would be for the period of the festival replaced by the kids' audio version, which you worked up with them. So that was a really big shift for us to have the festival so fully integrated into the work of an artist. Duncan, that did come with its own challenges, and
I mean, I think that was really ambitious and a really kind of interesting collaboration to be involved in, where it's not, it's the two organisations, the MAC and Young at Art. It's Jane and myself, and then Mark Garries, who was brilliant, was really involved as well. And I think that was a really ambitious approach last year. I don't know about the actual challenges, because it kind of worked really well, I thought. I mean, there needed to be some conversation between us and between Mark and with yourself, just, how are things going to work? How are we going to technically gather raw materials for Mark, for instance? But that was fine. I mean, I think it worked really well, and really was a big push towards this idea of co-authorship that you mentioned as well, and kind of interestingly, perhaps the challenge then was the challenge to the idea of what is an individual artist's work, and what is for lack of a better term, an outreach project. And I think that was maybe where the challenge lay, in that idea of challenging those ideas of all those boundaries. I thought it was a great collaboration. And just to mention a couple of things about the images, the last one that popped up there, I think, Sinead, it was Colour Sound 3. That just shows you a bit of the in-class activities. So that's how we produced these silks. It was a very kind of collaborative again, the collaboration was obviously the theme that permeated the whole project. So in that case, we're getting children to very much work together. They're having to negotiate space, literally, here. So there's also an interesting echo of us all as the partners in it, negotiating space as well.
Yeah, and like not taking ownership as well for you're part of the page, or you're part of the silk. So we encouraged a lot of movement in that, where you kind of like shifted around in the classroom as you painted, and you could sense a bit of resistance from some of the children, like, no, that's my bit. And it was just about letting it go and introducing that idea of collaboration at this stage. But P3s just don't want to do that, but they did well in the end.
So maybe Duncan, maybe the challenges didn't rest in that project. Maybe they rested with this one.
Perhaps, yes.
So maybe we'll start to talk a little bit about the current project, and if again I can, obviously I feel this great sense of responsibility because I have to share information with you in advance of the festival, because you're going to be working off that. You're going to be kind of translating that into a workshop activity with the kids or whatever. But Mark Gary's project and the children's intervention was the last thing that we had on prior to lockdown. So it was the last exhibition that we had in the MAC until we had to reopen again, and we reopened again in October. And we felt at the MAC that we couldn't reopen with the exhibitions that we had postponed. So everything had changed in the world, and we had to respond to that in a way. And one of the one really, and we had to reconnect with our audiences. We felt very strongly that people had this sense of remove from wider society, but also from visiting spaces and interacting with people. And we wanted to do something which was really celebratory and I guess that crossed over and wasn't in any way restricted to just professional artists' practice. And one of the really nice things about the lockdown was, I guess, one of the benefits to come out of it was a kind of return to creativity, or appreciation of creativity, or a collective activity in a way. And the exhibition that we looked to open with and that you drew inspiration from was in a coalition of, in a rainbow of coalitions. And we started the sort of, for me, the thinking around that began around the kids and, health workers all making the rainbow drawings and positioning those in their windows. So during the summer, we made a call out for these rainbows, and then I constructed an exhibition around these rainbows and responses to the rainbow. And that both involved professional artists as well as non-artists and children. Maybe Sinead, you'll show the Alex, Amelia and Evie's little video.
Hi there, my name is Evie Brighton and I go to Stranmillis Primary School.
My name is Emily Brighton and I also go to Stranmillis Primary School.
Hi, my name's Alex Brighton and I go to Maffity, and this is our art piece.
So our teacher assigned us a project because she missed us. She wanted to see what we were doing, so we just did a big artwork and I think she liked it.
We came up with some ideas because we saw these people doing some art on the pavement and things, and so we decided that we wanted to do something like that.
So we started off just laying down the tape in different patterns, and then we just started chalking it in, and then eventually you take off the tape. So the design's based off the rainbows of the NHS, and we wanted to support the NHS in some way, so we did that.
So I guess that was this is probably an encounter, an experience that you have all the time of working with kids. That was I invited those kids, having seen them do the drawing on the street. As it happens, their mother is an artist, so she kind of facilitated the meeting with them, and I got to invite them to exhibit in a gallery alongside professional artists. So there's a real buzz. They had a real buzz out of doing that. So obviously this was the exhibition, and there were many artists involved in that. There were a number of different works. There was a quilt and quarantine quilt that was made up from individual patches sent from all over the world by these designers in London. There were other works which were around the Getty Museum's challenge to people to recreate a work of art. So there was quite a wide range of different works. So this was the project that you looked for this project, which we're exhibiting now.
Yep. And I'm sorry, Duncan, go ahead if you want to.
No, not at all. You go ahead if you wish, Jane, or we can.
Yeah, we can. Turns. Yes, no problem. Yeah, I guess this, as you said, this year was a little different. Like always, we wanted to kind of engage with the children first of all. Then the idea would be to have the gallery tour, and then the workshops then came after. But obviously we couldn't access the schools this year, so we actually made a video of the exhibition at the MAC in a rainbow of coalitions, which was then disseminated to the schools for the children to watch. So it was a completely different way of working for us, but I feel like the In a Rainbow of Coalitions really kind of helped, especially because the theme we were looking at was kind of to explore kind of creative experiences within these strange times. And kind of finding kind of special moments over the last year, and particularly shining light, I guess, on our homes and how they became even more familiar over the last number of years, and then pulling kind of magical stories from this, in particular looking at objects in the home. So as I said, In a Rainbow Coalitions was just perfect, I guess, for introducing them to these ideas, because this was pretty much an exhibition of how artists have used their times at home to be creative and express themselves during this time.
And I think also it had this great blend of artists, children, professionals, non-professionals, and that was a really nice progression on from what had been established the year before, where was this kind of this kind of interchange between those different ways of making art. So it was a really nice mix, which really set the stage for what we were able to kind of build around that in terms of our response and planning the workshops.
So were the workshops actually delivered? Were the kids in school, or were they homeschooling at that time?
By this point, they were homeschooling. So we really didn't know. Originally, of course, well, nobody knew. So we originally thought that they may be screened in school if the children were going to be in school. But of course, that transpired after Christmas that wasn't going to be the case. So we had to kind of we kind of had to reinvent ourselves as YouTube stars for this one. Well, maybe not YouTube stars, let's just say YouTubers, and make these our own videos from the Young at Art HQ, the Young at Art offices. We kind of turn the offices upside down, and well, actually, it's a pretty good place to ransack. Actually, if you look at stuff, so it was, there's just kind of shelves of stuff there for us to use.
Had everything we needed.
So these were all pre-recorded, and we were going to do it live initially, live in the school via Zoom onto whatever digital blackboard they would have had. But these were now then distributed by Jackie at Young at Art to the school, who then forwarded the link to the homes. So there's a lot of mediation going on in this one.
So as well as your relationship with teachers, but then there was then a relationship with parents or guardians, or as well as that.
I mean, in a way, because the Young Art staff have been so fantastic, and really stepped up and said, it was Jackie Futo, our education manager, that kind of played the role of gathering and disseminating things, and was just kind of kind of another part of our team, I guess, another part of our coalition, who would make sure that the material went out, and also offered to kind of be the kind of place where people could send images back to. So we were sorry, carry on.
Yeah, the images, then what you received was all received digitally as well. They weren't. So again, for this presentation, you had to really think or consider how you were going to present the ideas and thinking around the work.
Yeah, that was I guess a challenge in itself, because we weren't in the classroom with the children, so you're never quite sure how these things were going to land with them in their homes by themselves and going on whatever else is going on around them at that time. It's always fun being in the classroom and introducing these ideas of like, what does blue smell like or sound like, but to kind of get that across on screen was a bit of a challenge. But we still kind of recorded the videos and carried out the workshops in the same way as we would have in the classroom. And yes, so we asked throughout the workshops for various, like, to pause and make various things, photograph them, send us them via Jackie, via their teachers, and then we kind of then reinterpret that. Obviously we couldn't gather physical artworks of the children, so they kind of came back to us as images or scans, so we had to then reinterpret that again, a response to what we had received. So you'll see in the video, I'm sure shortly, but we kind of then use this idea of the fact that we're all, this communication with the children it is digital. We then manipulated their imagery into digital drawings ourselves, and they were presented almost in a grid-like pixelated form on the wall of the gallery. And then this idea of our form of communication with them became part of that work as well. Again, that came up just through the process of doing these workshops and us responding to it week by week.
Maybe this is a good chance to maybe see the results, and then maybe after we see that short film, open it up for questions. If people would like to ask a question, if they can turn their mic on and ask the question directly of Jane or Duncan. Okay.
I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, gets bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine. Staying at home in my best dress, drawing colourful rainbows for the NHS. Smiling faces make my day better. Cauliflower and cheese taste better with cheddar. Bear is in the corner while I eat my ice cream, 'cause last time he stole it, or was that a dream?
I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, gets bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine. Staying at home in my best dress, drawing colourful rainbows for the NHS. Smiling faces makes my day better. Cauliflower and cheese tastes better with cheddar. Bear is in the corner while I eat my ice cream, 'cause last time he stole it, or was that a dream? I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, getting bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine. Staying at home in my best dress, drawing colourful rainbows for the NHS. Smiling faces make my day better. Cauliflower and cheese taste better with cheddar. Bear is in the corner while I eat my ice cream, 'cause last time he stole it, or was that a dream?
I sit in my house and look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, gets bigger with time. The flowers grow too, but no one's bigger than mine. Staying at home is in my best dress, drawing colourful rainbows for the NHS. Smiling faces make my day better. Cauliflower and cheese taste better with cheddar. Bear sits in the corner while I eat my ice cream, 'cause last time he stole it, or was it a dream?
I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, gets bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine. Staying at home in my best dress, drawing colourful rainbows for the NHS. Smiling faces make my day better. Cauliflower and cheese taste better with cheddar. Bear is in the corner while I eat my ice cream, 'cause last time he stole it, or was that a dream?
We're going to play another clip of that. It's just the gallery tour. Duncan and myself giving a rundown of the elements of the exhibition, and Sinead's going to play that now.
Okay.
I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, gets bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine.
This is the My Place exhibition, which has been produced with Duncan Ross and myself with 3 schools in Belfast: Fian Street, Bunskull McRacton and Seaview Primary School. And this is a response to work we received through remote facilitation with the schools over the last number of months. It's a child's story of the everyday, of the magic of every day. Last year we had to spend a lot of time at home, so we wanted to pull out these creative and imaginary experiences of being home. We kind of had to adapt quite quickly to a new way of working with the schools. Obviously, because the schools closed, we had to pre-record videos and send them out to the schools, and then in these pre-recorded videos and workshops we asked for what responses from the kids, and you'll see some of these in the digital prints that are here today. Can you notice anything about the pictures that they have in common? Yeah, they're pretty colourful, aren't they? We pre-recorded a tour of the exhibition in the MAC, which was In a Rainbow of Coalitions, and we sent that out to the schools and asked the children to respond to the work in that exhibition. And in that exhibition was artwork by artists about their time at home and how they expressed themselves creatively during that time. And what we did was then ask the children to use that as inspiration to produce work and send it to us.
Hello, my name is Duncan, and I have been working with Young at Art the last few months as an artist facilitator, working for the project My Place. So we were quite influenced by the exhibition that was currently showing alongside this, called In a Rainbow of Coalitions, and this exhibition was very much about the experience of staying at home over the past few months and various different artistic responses to it. So some of the works directly inspired this. So it was a very abstract drawing by some young children that we took inspiration from, but also some of our research into children's playgrounds and temporary architectural buildings. Although at the beginning of the project the ideal plan would be to, of course, be in the schools. That wasn't possible. So what we ended up doing was making our own pre-recorded videos. For that, we set up a kind of temporary studio in the Young at Art offices, the Young at Art headquarters. So we wanted to retain some of that in our installation as well, and that was the thinking behind our backdrop here, our photographic backdrop. These are a very important part of the exhibition because these are some of the traces of some of the drawings and writing that the children did produce. A lot of what we got back was very mediated. We'd ask them to produce some drawings and texts, and they would then photograph them, send them to their teacher and send them back to us. So a lot of different processes going on there before we get the images. So we just went with that. Thought, okay, here's what we have got from the children, and we've digitally worked with them, and then selected fragments of them or changed the colours on them, and then we have them printed and professionally mounted. But I kind of think that's also part of the narrative of the show, because there's so much technological mediation has been going on, and we've all been subject to that, and that wasn't something we wanted to shy away from. So these were the 1/4 scale models that we made to basically plan the practical aspect of the installations. So there's always things that we bring in from our practices into our Young at Art projects. And each year that's kind of different things, and each year, you know, both of us bring in aspects of things that we're currently interested in, or things even that we want to experiment with. And that's a really important part of the commission and of the project as a whole. So this was something that I'd been experimenting with a little bit before the project began.
I sit in my house and I look out my window. I see the same tree as I sit on my pillow. It slowly grows, getting bigger with time. The flowers, they grow too, but no one's bigger than mine.
So we wanted to include various layers within the exhibition. So with the children with the remote learning, we touched upon performance and sculpture and drawing, but there's also this audio element. We asked the children what was valuable about their time at home during the last year, and this is some of the imagery that they sent us in, and then we use that as inspiration to produce a spoken word track that you will hear playing over the exhibition.
Smiling faces make my day better. Cauliflower and cheese taste better with cheddar.
So I guess the exhibition is kind of representative of the fact that we miss the presence and touch of our family and friends at the minute, but how we can still connect with each other through digital kind of realms. So having these elements of the children present here in their drawings and the voices as well, especially when we cannot physically have the children present in the gallery space. Also, just from myself and Duncan working with the MAC and Young at Art during these really difficult times, like they've been so amazing in helping us and supporting us in producing this work. They went completely out of their way to help us to produce this installation, and yeah, we just want to say a massive thanks to them.
I appreciate the thanks. I'm sure Young at Art do as well, but honestly, I've been so impressed and full of admiration for the work that you have done, for the difficulties that you've overcome in terms of, and still producing a really quality project, you know, that both responds to the exhibition, but also still is very evidently the work of the children. The children's voices is actually in that space. So congratulations, it really is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
Maybe we can open it up to questions. If anybody would like to ask a question, we'd invite you to unmute. Any questions?
Hi, I might ask a question. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can, yes.
Hi, my name is Ashlyn, and I'm the director of Bobro in Galway. Congratulations, Jane and Duncan, really beautiful exhibition and project. I was lucky enough to see your work in Belfast this time last year and the year before, so well done on continuing the great work. I just had a question, I suppose, around the level of engagement and kind of appetite for engagement through the schools that you approached, and I'm not sure if there were families as well or if it was just school children, because you know, in this continuing lockdown, I suppose, and hopefully here in the South we're just beginning to get out of it, but I know there's a lot of pressure on teachers and on families at this time. So I'd just be interested to hear, yeah, what kind of reaction you got.
We got a real mix of reactions. So we got from one of the schools, we got a lot of material back, and there was a lot of engagement, and I imagine it's very much to do with the particular methods of homeschooling that each school is, because they're all different here. You know, some are, each school seems to be taking a slightly different approach. So very, very varied, actually. You know, from some we got a lot of material, from some not so much from others. So it was, and I mean, really, we just had to take that into account from the get-go. We had to actually kind of proceed almost assuming that we might not get anything.
Yeah.
And that really this would be quite a different project in terms of how much presence the actual children's work could have. We had to go, okay, we might not get anything, and we have to go ahead and create something that is still reflective of the themes. So yeah, and then I think just at this period of time, I'm sure it's the same where you are, with just this, I think a large level of fatigue, perhaps amongst parents as well as teachers, in terms of what they can actually realistically achieve through homeschooling. I mean, I think we were really glad. One of the things, we're still getting things through, and we still have one session left actually, which is, and so what we decided about midway through the project was, okay, we'll take what we have so far, and we have to create an installation. So we'll just go ahead with our plans there, but we won't let that stop our engagement with the kids. So on our third workshop, we actually set them a kind of, we sent out these little boxes of activity packs with art kits in them and clay and pens, and we gave them some activities to do with them. And really, we knew we weren't going to get that back in time for the exhibition. So really, it was like a kind of, you know, okay, this is still important. It doesn't end at the exhibition. It carries on. Yeah. So we're starting to see some of those things come back now, actually, and we're going to have a final session actually in the common room installation. So hopefully there'll be some time there for there to be some additional engagement from the kids, but really varied, and a difficult time perhaps to be setting tasks, or not tasks but activities, because the parents are so crucial in that. And
obviously as well, like Jackie at Young at Art did the most of the, you know, communication with the schools and kind of keeping them on board. She did a lot of hard work in doing that. So, you know, yeah, thanks to Jackie, you know, she's fantastic for doing that too. So
I think also because of the situation that, you know, there's the timeline obviously changed as well, so there wasn't this pressure, I guess, to have all the workshops done before the exhibition. So perhaps in that there is an opportunity for a bit more connection, a bit more reach. In the fact that we're going to come back in a couple of weeks, there's more time, hopefully, for kids to send back in artworks, and we can include them in the final video. So which we did in the last video as well. So it becomes a bit of a, you know, it's very mediated, but it is a way at least of showing that there's some reciprocity, or that we are receiving what they've done, and we can show it back to them as well.
Any other questions? Jane and Duncan, maybe I can ask a question which is kind of related, but from your experiences, I guess, and it's your experiences of working directly in schools. I just would like to get a sense of the kind of broader picture in terms of with arts education in schools becoming less available. I mean, where do you, or how do you see the value of the work that you're doing and the work that Young at Art are doing, in terms of, because clearly we benefit tremendously because it's so difficult. Schools are not making the visits that they would have ordinarily made, and so the MAC is very, very busy with school visits whenever a Young Art Festival is on. But you are also working with teachers on a project. Maybe you could describe what you're doing there.
Yes, so we are also, myself and a number of other actors and dancers and artists that are part of the Young at Art team are involved in this 2-year-long project at the minute called Creative Teacher, which is a collaboration or mentorship between us and the teachers in various primary schools across Belfast. And it's kind of a way to encourage, I guess, creative thinking within the classroom, and potentially within the curriculum, but also using that for developing critical thinking skills and imaginative kind of processes. So it's only just kind of in its infancy at the moment, and we're excited. It's a completely different way of working with kind of the institution, I guess. We're not actually directly working with the children, but we're with their teachers, and via Zoom at the minute, of course. So it's really exciting to see how these creative practices can extend then into the classroom via the teachers, and how we can learn from them as well. It's not kind of us going in and telling them what to do. It's, it's an exchange in that way. I guess I've always been interested in how creative visual practices, art practices, can kind of exist in a classroom setting. And as I think Duncan or yourself mentioned, it was Emma Berkeley, who was previously the education officer within Young at Art, and who is a visual artist herself, was the one I felt in conversation with me initiated this. She wanted to kind of bring these practices into the education system again, and I guess for me, I'm interested in a way to kind of how that can kind of change or disrupt things, or create change or disruptions at an institutional level, not like in a bad way, of course, but I guess looking at art as more than aesthetics, and how it can make you see kind of an approach a variety of concerns and find new ways of looking at the world, and not just with these kind of object outputs at the end, as I said, these aesthetics. So I'm interested in how my practice can kind of exist in that way. And every year working with Young at Art, I kind of feel like that's becoming more and more refined, and with the support of Young at Art, and kind of they have allowed this openness to us existing as artists within these settings as well. And that's very special, and we're very lucky to have that.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be an artist and be in schools, and act as a kind of mediator for the art and the art institution, like a gallery. So thank you for that work. And if no one has any questions, I think this is a good point to draw the session to a close. I would just like to thank Jane and Duncan, also Heather for her signing, and also the Young at Art team, Evelyn and Jackie as well. Thank you very much for everything that you've done, and tremendous respect for your program this year. Thank you very much, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later. Bye.